Hello everybody, it is time for another Warhammer 40k battle report. I apologise for the delay in doing a new one over Christmas and New Year. It was a bit too busy to do it. These are very time consuming to do. I appreciate all the support on them though, and we're going to see my Tau army make their debut in 8th edition. Although keep in mind they don't have an 8th edition codex yet, but more about that when we go across the armies. Here's what the table is going to look like though, and we'll go over mission after taking a look in detail at what is being fielded by the Tau and Death Guard. So the Death Guard army is 1250 points, almost on the dot if I remember rightly, being led by a Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings, although you can't see them so just use your imagination. The suppurating plate, not going to give him a Warlord trait because the Tau don't have Tau specific ones, just to balance it out a little bit, but he is the Warlord today. Troop choices, 3 Nurglings, 7 Plague Marines with the champion having a Power Fist and 1 having a Plasma Gun. They are going to be in a Chaos Rhino with Havoc Launcher and, not Storm Bolter, Combi Bolter. Death Shroud Terminators, 5 of them as they come. Hellbrute as it comes, so the Hellbrute Fist and a Melt-A-Gun. 10 Poxwalkers, just as another troop choice. 4 Chaos Spawn, which I wish were as good as in 7th edition, but sadly in 8th edition they're not that great. And then also a Fetid Block Drone. And I do believe that is 1250 points on the dot. Unless I forgot to mention any war gear. Oh, the Demon Prince's Psychic Powers has Smite and Curse of the Leper. And now let's take a look at the Tau side. So as mentioned, the Tau do not yet have an 8th edition codex, so they are using their rules from Index Xenos 2, which just means they were kind of like the rushed out rules so that every army was playable when 8th edition got released. So point values may change down the line, etc, etc. The Death Guard are using their codex. But anyway, come over here. The Tau is being led by a commander in a battlesuit. I'm going to count it as the Cold Star battlesuit just to try that. So it doesn't look like it should and it has the wrong weapons equipped. But basically it's a commander that can kind of lone wolf, has ridiculous movement speed, base 20 and then he can advance 20 more without having to roll for it. So he can get all over the place. His weapons are actually a little missile launcher and a big minigun. So just have to use your imagination there. Other HQ choice, although the suit is the commander, is a Cadre Fireblade, who's probably going to be sitting amongst the troop choices, which are 2 squads of, they're not called breacher teams, I just know them as fire warriors, but 2 teams of 8 fire warriors. The ones that don't have the shotgun type weapons, they have the pulse rifles. Then we have 2, 4, 6, 7 Pathfinders for marker lights, and then we have a Hammerhead, equipped as you see it, so smart missile systems and a railgun. And then a bit cruel for a 1250 point game, usually I'd only use 1, but I've missed using them, so 2 Riptides. This one is equipped exactly as you see it, so the big cannon there, smart missile systems. This one has 2 fusion blasters. It doesn't have the big blaster gun that it is actually modelled with, however it's got a little machine gun thing. They both have multi-tracker, which the commander has as well. That means if they fire all the weapons at the same target they get +1 to their hit chance. And they have early warning override, early warning, whatever. So that means if something deep strikes next to them, they can shoot at it as if it was their shooting phase. The commander also has a shield generator, which I forgot to mention. So that is the Tau. Now we're going to see what setup looks like and then we'll go over the mission and play and all that good stuff at deployment. So here's the mission I'm going to play today. No mercy, it's basically the kill each other or die trying mission type. The person who gets the first turn is the person who finishes deploying their army first, which in this case was the Tau, and they want to go first. So we will be trying to We will be trying to seize the initiative as the Death Guard. But as far as deployment we're doing, this is Dawn of War deployment, so it's the long table edges for the first time. Got the Rhino filled with the Plague Marines here, the Block Drone, the Demon Prince, Poxwalkers, and then much further up the table there we have got the Hellbrute at the far end. Nurglings get to deploy outside the deployment zone, so they're hidden up there. Chaos Spawn, that's what I was blanking on. Chaos Spawn right there. And if we come over this side of the table, the Fire Warrior teams are there and there, with the Cadre in between them because he gives them an extra shot if they're shooting at something that's within half distance. 1 Riptide behind them there. The Hammerhead is straight up there. 2nd Riptide. The Pathfinder's there out of deployment zone as well because just before the first turn they get to move up to 7. The commander is there, although with his fantastic movement range that doesn't really matter, but the Hellbrute was kind of put where it was to be a counter place for that because he can rip the commander apart if he gets his hands on him. So that is how it's going to be at deployment. It is going to be Tau turn 1 unless Death Guard concedes the initiative. So here we go with the Death Guard die. They got a 3. So unfortunately the Tau are getting first turn, and Tau are very strong if they get to shoot first. So we'll see how it goes. End of Tau turn 1, their first turn in 8th edition, at least for me. And I noticed the Riptides have changed now. You can't just use their Nova and then have a chance of taking a wound afterwards. To use their Nova engines you have to take a wound, which is a nice balance thing actually, because it was a little OP before. But anyway, this Riptide hopped forwards and took shots, all of his shots at the Rhino, so it counteracted the fact that he moved and fired heavy weapons because he has multi-tracker. Only managed to do the 1 wound to the Rhino though, so it has 9 left. The firewires behind that Riptide couldn't see or do anything. However, the other squad fired in at the Poxwalkers. The Cadre Fireblade also fired his marker light at them, as did the Pathfinders, who are all the way over here. Marker lights have a long range. They don't do any damage, but they let other people in the Tau army who shoot at them have a bunch of bonuses. So the Poxwalkers eventually got 4 marker lights on them, and a combined fire from the Firewires and also the smart missiles from the Hammerhead tank killed 6 of them, leaving 4. They don't do morale tests though because they're mindless zombies. The Hammerhead, speaking of it, fired his railgun at the Chaos Spawn, rolled okay, but only did 2 wounds to the closest one, so the rest of them are still fine. This Riptide moved up and shot at the Hellbrute, did 1 wound to him, leaving him on 7, and the Hellbrute actually passed his crazed roll and shot at the nearest target, which was the Commander. Commander didn't get damaged, thankfully. The Commander, unfortunately though, to stick with him, whiffed spectacularly when firing at the Nurglings and only did 1 wound to the Nurgling base that is closest to him. His goal was to get rid of them for an easy first blood. I forgot to go over the objectives in play, but basically for every 1 unit entirely wiped out is 1 victory point, and then the Slay the Warlord, Linebreaker and First Blood secondary objectives are in play. So a few wounds lost for the Death Guard there, and 6 zombies. That's not as bad as it could have been, but we'll see if they can actually manage to get First Blood before the Tau do in Death Guard turn 1. End of Death Guard turn 1, and I should point out, if you're not familiar with this, Tau are not good in close combat. The Rhino has moved up, the Plague Marines inside did not disembark. The Demon Prince tried to cast Curse of a Leper on the nearest Riptide and failed. It had moved up to roughly like here-ish, as did the Fetid Bloat Drone. The Poxwalkers just tried to hide to try and deny First Blood next turn. The Bloat Drone charged first. The Riptide whiffed on Overwatch shots, as did the Firewires behind. Tau have this rule where if there's certain units with a certain rule within distance of a unit that is being charged, they may fire as if they were being charged as well. But they still have to hit on 6s when firing Overwatch, so very bad rolls unfortunately, but bad rolls in general, come to think of it, for the Tau this turn. The only thing that kind of went their way was that the Demon Prince whiffed with his Hellforged sword. The Fetid Bloat Drone actually did damage. Got through the Riptide's save, and he is down to, it's a bit hard to read, but he has 12 wounds left. He started on 14. So he has that left. Over here, the Chaos Spawn just kind of moved up and advanced. They're not really doing anything other than hopefully going to draw fire. Over here, however, the Nurglings charged the Cold Start Commander first, didn't take any damage on Overwatch. The Hellbrute was then able to safely charge in as well. Nurglings weren't able to do anything to the Commander. The Hellbrute's Hellbrute Fist, though, is a pretty damaging thing. Did 3 wounds to the Commander, so he has 3 left. He was unable to even wound the Gurglings back. They got really good, disgustingly resilient rolls. So although the Tau didn't take a single casualty, they took a lot of wounds that turn, and very specifically their leader is half dead before he was able to really get to do anything. So if they can get out of close combat, which I believe they can with no penalty because they can fly, I'm going to go look that up now, they might be able to turn this around. Let's go into Tau turn 2 and see. End of Tau turn 2, and I did look into how falling back works. Any unit can fall back, but usually they are not allowed to charge or shoot if they fall back to break off hand-to-hand combat. The exception is if they have the fly rule, which Tau mech suits do because they have jetpacks, so they can still shoot. And I didn't see a limitation about how far they're to fall back, so I assume they get their full movement. The rule just said they can't stop within 1 inch of an enemy because that would still count them as being in combat. So the Riptides and the Commanders all broke off the combats they were in. They fell back, mostly. Other than that, there was some repositioning of the Pathfinders and one squad of Fire Warriors, but it all came down to the shooting. Opted to use the Nova engine of this Riptide. That means it supercharges its weapon to do amazing extra damage, but again, now in 8th edition, that costs a wound, so he lost a wound and is now down to 11 from 12. He put he fired his Nova charged gun into the fetid bloat drone. He chose to fire his smart missiles, which is those on the top there. They can hit targets they can't see, so he shot at the Poxwalkers to try and kill them for first blood, but he actually whiffed with them, unfortunately. His gun, though, did good damage to the bloat drone. I don't quite remember what its wounds went down to after that, because the 2 Fire Warrior squads also shot in, and with the cadre in between them, right there, they got an extra shot because they're within half distance. So a bunch of strength 5 shots against toughness 6 or 7. It left the fetid bloat drone on 3 wounds, so he's not dead, but he is wounded enough that his stats are affected. So we'll see how that goes. Opted not to put anything into the Demon Prince yet because he's got a 2+ save and is tougher. Over here, turned the Hammerhead's turret just to remind myself who he shot at. He fired his railgun, his solid shot, which is just a single shot that does a lot of damage if it actually hits, at the Hellbrute to try and kill him with his 1 wound. He put him down to 1 wound from what he was at. The smart missiles shot at the Poxwalkers hidden behind there, killed 1 of them. There's still 3 Poxwalkers left alive over there. The Pathfinders, rather than firing their marker lights this turn, they fired their close range assault rifles that I've forgotten the name of. I think it is just pulse rifles. No, that sounds like the one the Fire Warriors use. Pulse something. Carbine, I think. Didn't do that well. They got the front one that had already taken a wound down to 1 wound, but they're still perfectly fine. The Commander fired his missile pod because that's all he could see. He could see 1 of the Chaos Spawn, missed with it. Over here though, just to make sure the Hellbrute died, the other Riptide opted to fire both his fusion blasters and his big gun at the Hellbrute, even though the big gun on this one is actually more meant for taking out small fry like the Nurglings, but the Nurglings aren't really a threat. Wanted to guarantee the kill, got the last wound off of the Hellbrute. He's dead, that is first blood, and an extra point just for a unit being wiped out. So now the tower up to 0. Gotta remember though, there's still the Plague Marines and the Rhino over here, down there, that aren't out yet, and the Death Shroud Terminators who have not deep struck. So we'll see what the Death Guard do in their turn 2. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. End of Death Guard turn 2, and they're bringing the fight to the tower up close and personal because that's the only way to beat them, other than the Poxwalkers, who are just hiding to try and not give up another victory point. The Rhino moved up and decided to pop smoke. Rhinos can pop smoke once per game. It means if it gets shot at next turn, it's a -1 to hit for all weapons firing at it. Just in case, just to make sure it gets around the corner in the next Death Guard turn. Fetid Bloat Drone attacked the Fire Warriors, burned like 5 of them to a crisp with his putrid cannons or whatever they're called. Then he engaged them in close combat and actually whiffed. His close combat abilities have reduced him to 2 attacks because of how many wounds he has left. Although, did I mention Tau aren't very good in close combat because they did nothing back. They passed morale, barely though. The Demon Prince tried to do Curse of a Leper, succeeded in killing 1 of them outright of this Fire Warrior squad because it can only target the closest enemy unit. Then he engaged them, didn't take any damage on the way in via Overwatch, and then murderized 2 of them. They then failed morale, which equaled another 1 dead. So there's 4 left. Tau are very bad in close combat, so they did nothing back to the Demon Prince. He didn't even have to take a save, so his suppurating plate didn't even need to kick in. Over here, the Death Shroud Terminators have decided to teleport in, and they were out of view of both Riptides, so Early Warning Overdrive did not kick in and give them a free shot at the teleporting in unit. They're not allowed to, well, they could have attempted a charge, but they didn't, and their weapons are out of range. They have putrid throwers or something. Chaos Spawn moved up and charged the Pathfinders. Pathfinders managed to do 1 damage on the way in via Overwatch, which killed the 1 Chaos Spawn that had 1 wound left. They rolled a 1 for the number of attacks because they get random numbers of attacks per combat round, and as a result didn't do, well, wait, no, they killed 1. So 1 Pathfinder died. They passed morale, basically a draw if you count the Overwatch wound. Over here, the Nurglings opted not to engage or attempt to engage the Riptide by charging him because of the worry of getting murderized on Overwatch. trying to make the Tau waste a turn going after them, essentially. So the Tau have suffered massive casualties to their troop choices, but their bigger mech suits and their tank is okay for now. The Death Shroud are on the table though, and we still have the Plague Marines inside the Rhino. The Death Guard are also now definitely getting Linebreaker, assuming they don't get wiped out, which gives them a victory point. Tau can get that one as well though. So we will see how it goes as we move into Tau turn 3. End of Tau turn 3, the 2 Fire Warrior squads fell back so that the targets that were in combat with them could get shot at. They don't have fly though, so they weren't able to charge or shoot or anything like that. The Cadre Fireblade moved back, shot at the Demon Prince, did nothing to him. The Hammerhead tank moved position. He shot his solid railgun shot at the Feathered Bloat Drone to try and finish it off. Shot the undercarriage missile systems, which you can't quite see, but they're under there and there. At the Poxwalkers, there's one Poxwalker left alive hidden behind the Bastion there. Its solid railgun shot missed, however the Riptide chose to kill confirm, shot into it, murderized it, so the Feathered Bloat Drone is now dead. And then over here, the Pathfinders opted just to stay in combat with the Chaos Spawn because Terminators are right behind them. Didn't do any damage to the Chaos Spawn. The Chaos Spawn in return killed 3, and then they lost another 1 to morale. The Riptide over here opted to wound itself in order to use the overcharged profile, or sorry, the Nova charged profile of the burst cannon thing it's got, and shot that at the Death Shroud Terminators. Actually managed to get a wound through, so the closest one is down to 1 wound. He fired his fusion blasters at the Nurglings and did nothing to them. The commander shot his assault rifle thing and missile launcher at the Nurglings, killed 1 base and put another base on 1 wound. So they're still hanging in there, but they're going to get wiped out next turn probably. I also forgot to do morale for the Nurglings, so if that changes their wound tally or whatever, I will update that on Death Guard turn 3. End of Death Guard turn 3, the Rhino moved up and let the Plague Marines out finally. They combined their power to shoot at this squad of Fire Warriors that had 3 left, murdered them all. Other than that, we have Death Shroud Terminators moved up a little bit. They're very slow, they move 4 inches, so maybe keeping them out of the way of the Riptide was not a good idea because they're not really going to get to do much. In this combat, the Chaos Spawn, the 3 surviving Chaos Spawn, killed the 2 surviving Tau Pathfinders. They are now wiped out, so that's another point for the Death Guard. Over here, the Demon Prince decided to go after the Hammerhead to kind of stop it causing problems. Engaged it, the Hammerhead didn't hit back at all. It's not meant for that, obviously, because it's a tank. And the Demon Prince got it down to 7 wounds remaining. That's 1 wound off it having less combat effectiveness. Although, again, it's going to have to fall back and it doesn't get to shoot, I think. Actually, it might have the fly roll. I'll have to look into that because it is a hover tank. Over here, the Nurglings decided to do a Hail Mary charge at the commander just to see maybe if they could take him out or at least wound him a little bit more. He's only got 3 wounds left. 1 died on the way in and the survivor is now on 2 wounds. They did nothing back. That was a quick turn. It's going to get much quicker from here as we go into turn 4 for the Tau. End of Tau turn 4, and it's the story of the little Poxwalker that could and the Demon Prince that couldn't. As you might be able to tell, I wanted to get this faraway view because it looked awesome. Honestly, all the Tau models fell back from combat. As it turns out, the Hammerhead tank does indeed have fly because he is a hover tank, so he could shoot when he pulled back at a -1 for moving. They all lined up to go for the Hail Mary of shooting at the Demon Prince while he was in the middle of no man's land, essentially. So the other Riptide moved up, the Hammerhead, this Riptide. Now the Hammerhead fired at smart missile systems, as did this Riptide, at the remaining Poxwalker, thinking, that's like 8 shots between them, that'll clean up 1 Poxwalker. He rolled disgustingly resilient every single time for every wound that got through. He is still alive. Oh, I should also point out both Riptides took off another wound off themselves in order to do their Nova Charge profile just because they were going for, they wanted to kill the Demon Prince. The Cadres probably sacrificed themselves as well, as did the Fire Warriors by moving up just to also shoot, although they did nothing. The solid shot railgun fire from the Hammerhead missed. Most of the wounds came from the Nova Charge profile of this Riptide, left them on 2. Those 2 were filled or cleaned up by the Nova Charge attack of that Riptide. So between them, the 2 Riptides did take out the Demon Prince in 1 turn, but they sacrificed wounds to do so. They have enough to spare though. Also, they're kind of banking on the Death Shrouds not getting anywhere useful, although they are still going to very easily get Linebreaker as a result. Over here the commander fell back from combat and shot the Nurgling and killed it, so that is the Nurglings gone as well. Turn's getting much faster now. Here is Death Guard turn 4. End of Death Guard turn 4. It was a quick turn, but they did actually manage to get themselves a point. The Chaos Spawn opted to hide because there's a lot of firepower that's now kind of free to do what it wants on turn 5. I think we're going to call turn 5 the final turn again, just because things are running on a bit here. Let's see, the Death Shroud shouldn't do much. The Rhino moved up just to cover the Plague Marines. Keep in mind that corpse is just there to remember where it happened. It's not actually there for line of sight blocking purposes. That's important because of what happened. The Plague Marines moved up as well. Both all shot into the Cadre Fireblade just to guarantee the kill, because the Cadre is a unit. So that is another victory point now that he is dead. Didn't have any shots left over to take on the remnants of the Fire Warriors, however. Might happen on the final turn. And the Poxwalker, although, you know, he moved around so he's out of line of sight, but smart missile systems don't need line of sight, so he could have his luck run out finally as we go into turn 5 for the Tau, which we're going to call their final turn. End of turn 5 for the Tau, their final turn, and the luckiest Poxwalker to ever grace this table did finally fall. However, it took 2 smart missile systems firing at him to make it happen. The Hammerhead's smart missile system shot first, did not kill him, so the Riptide had to do it. The Hammerhead fired its railgun solid shot at the Rhino just because maybe it was going to do a bit of damage, but it missed, so sadly not, because it moved and it had a -1. The remaining Fire Warriors moved and shot at the Death Shroud Terminators, did nothing. Both Riptides once again sacrificed an additional wound, so this one here is down to 9, in order to Nova Charge just to go for an all-out shot against the Death Shrouds. Didn't do anything. This Riptide, when they overcharged however and shot their Fusion Blaster, and because they were shooting all at the same target, +1 to hits, so it counteracted the fact they moved basically, managed to take out 2 of the Chaos Spawn. Sadly though, 1 survived, although I just realised it didn't do their morale, and it is important because the Tau's not going to get another chance to shoot unless they get Overwatch from some charges on the Chaos final turn. So let's just go over here and grab ourselves a Nurgle die. Over here. Chaos Spawn have a leadership of 9, they lost 2, that adds up to 4, they don't take any additional wounds. Sorry for the shaking there while I was rolling the dice. So as it stands, I do think the Tau have a lead, but this is the final Death Guard turn, let's see what they can do. So here we are at the end of the game, Death Guard turn 5, they basically just did everything they could to guarantee 1 more victory point and wiped out the final Fire Warrior squad there, because there wasn't anything else close enough to death that was in range that they could go after successfully. So they wiped them out, and that was all they really could do. There was no charges worth making, not worth the risk. So as we come over here, there's an overview of the table. As I go through the points, I've written them down, so I'm going to read them. The Tau killed the Demon Prince, they killed the Hellbrute, they killed the Bloat Drone, they killed the Nurglings, and they killed the Poxwalkers. The Death Guard killed the Pathfinders, and both strike teams of Fire Warriors, and also the Cadre Fireblade, but they didn't kill my Warlord on the Tau side because that was the commander suit that's over there. As far as secondary objectives, Death Guard have Linebreaker, so did the Tau, but Tau also got First Blood and Slay the Warlord. So the final tally, if I've worked it out correctly, is the Tau have 8 victory points and the Death Guard have 5. I feel like if it wasn't just kill everybody, the Death Guard might have had the edge because it was very easy for the Death Guard to wipe out the Tau's troop choices. The Riptides are much more survivable now. It's actually a nice little mechanic, having to definitely give up wounds to overcharge your guns. Probably made a mistake with the Hammerhead doing the constant solid shot. It's so powerful if it hits, but it has you hit on a 4+, that's a 50-50 chance straight away, and if you move and fire, that's another -1 unless you're shooting something with either a marker light or some other benefit. So the solid shot on the railgun on the Hammerhead didn't do too well. I mean, it did a lot of damage to the fetid Bloat Drone, but that's the only thing it did for the battle. Anyway, I do sincerely hope you enjoyed. Please do show your support on these videos if you want me to invest the time in recording more. The Tau are going to have another outing next time. Might keep the list the same, and we'll either put them up against the Tyranids or Ultramarines. So maybe let me know in the comments which out of those you would prefer to see first. Thank you very much for watching though, I hope you enjoyed, and ta-ta for now.